Walk down the main street of almost any major city today and you will encounter, within the space of a few hundred meters, a Vietnamese pho restaurant, a Nigerian hair salon, a Polish delicatessen, and a Mexican taqueria. This is not coincidence, it is the visible face of a world that has been quietly reorganizing itself for decades. Multicultural societies have become the norm rather than the exception in much of the developed world, and yet the question of what that actually means for identity, for community, for the way people relate to one another remains as contested and as fascinating as ever. At its best, cultural diversity is genuinely enriching in ways that go far beyond the obvious pleasures of food, music, and festival. When people from different backgrounds share a physical and social space, they bring with them entirely different ways of understanding the world, different assumptions about family, authority, time, obligation, and what constitutes a good life. This collision of perspectives, when it is managed with openness and mutual respect, has the potential to broaden thinking in ways that no single culture could achieve on its own. Some of the most creative and intellectually vibrant cities in history, Alexandria, Baghdad, Renaissance Venice, 20th century New York, were precisely those where multiple traditions met, competed, and cross-pollinated. What makes multicultural societies so compelling is not the surface-level variety they display, but the deeper tensions and negotiations they generate. Every culture carries within it a set of values that its members often regard as self-evident, and yet those values frequently come into direct conflict with those of neighboring communities. Ideas about gender roles, the boundaries between public and private life, the relationship between the individual and the collective, or the proper place of religion in civic affairs do not resolve themselves simply because people happen to live on the same street. These are genuine disagreements, and pretending otherwise in the name of social harmony serves no one particularly well. This is where the real challenge of multiculturalism lies, not in celebrating difference, which is relatively straightforward, but in navigating it honestly. There is a tendency in many liberal societies to treat cultural diversity as an unambiguous good, something to be promoted and protected in all its forms. But this position can become intellectually uncomfortable when it requires defending practices or beliefs that conflict with principles the same society regards as fundamental. The question of where cultural respect ends and moral relativism begins is not one that admits of easy answers, and societies that refuse to engage with it seriously tend to store up rather than resolve their tensions. And yet, for all the complexity it entails, there is something remarkable about the capacity of human beings to adapt, absorb, and reinvent themselves through contact with others. Second- and third-generation immigrants frequently occupy a fascinating cultural middle ground, fluent in the language and customs of their parents' homeland, yet equally at home in the society they have grown up in. They are, in a sense, living proof that identity is far more flexible and layered than nationalist narratives tend to allow. A person can be simultaneously Vietnamese and Australian, Moroccan and French, Nigerian and British, without experiencing that as a contradiction. What distinguishes the most successful multicultural societies from those that struggle is not the absence of difference or tension, but the presence of shared civic foundations strong enough to contain them. A common language, a broadly accepted legal framework, a set of institutions that people from all backgrounds feel they have a genuine stake in, these are not constraints on cultural diversity but the conditions that make it sustainable. Without them, difference can curdle into division. With them, it becomes something far more interesting, a permanent, productive conversation between people who see the world differently and are willing, nonetheless, to build something together. In the end, the most striking thing about multicultural societies is not their complexity, their contradictions, or even their occasional failures. It is the sheer, quiet ordinariness with which millions of people from vastly different backgrounds manage, day after day, to share the same cities, the same schools, the same workplaces, and the same streets, and to make it work. That, more than any government program or policy framework, may be the most remarkable cultural achievement of the modern world.
You